help us to pay attention, to learn what's being brought to the word. Thank you for those who are here, and we thank that you do with those who are unable to attend this morning, to bring them in later today. Lord, be with us as a congregation in this community. Help us to be an example to those about us, that we're willing to the one true gospel. Be with all the teachers this morning and the young individuals, the future of this congregation. Lord, help us to help them along the way as we help each other. Forgive us where we fail, and be with us as we continue through this morning service. In Christ's name.
Amen. Are you ready? I used to love to watch, well, didn't really watch that many, but beauty pageants kind of was always a joke. You know, when they did the interview section, they asked, what you'd like, and popular answer seemed to become world peace. It was always at the end. So I have a question for y'all. Are we ever going to see world peace? So if you would turn to Isaiah 9 and verse 6. We'll find out about Christ and some of the things that he was called. Isaiah 9:6. For unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given, and the government will be upon his shoulder. And his name will be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. But the increase of his government and peace there will be no end. On the throne of David over his kingdom, to order it and establish it with judgment and justice. From that time forward, even forever. The zeal of the Lord of hosts perform this. So one of his names is the Prince of Peace. What does that mean?
Peace within us, peace within the kingdom.
I think some people misconstrue that to think it's world peace or something different. So next, let's go to Matthew 5:9. Matthew 5:9.
Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called sons of God.
What about that statement?
When we make peace, it's not bringing Christ into any situation.
Yeah, I just think, like I said, there's so many people that have so many different perceptions about peace. When I was growing up in the 60s and 70s, that was a big deal. These symbols,
You know that originally meant victory?
Yes. Winston Churchill.
Winston Churchill?
That's right. Richard Nixon. I'm Rhoda Kirk.
I'm not.
So, as we look at it, once again, I think a lot of people have a different idea of when they think, peace in the Middle East. Will there ever be peace in the Middle East? What does Scripture got to say about that?
Scripture says it won't.
But should we strive for peace?
That's an ongoing effort everywhere. It's just not one place, it's everywhere. If we didn't strive for peace here in this country would be an anarchy. And we've seen this country go to anarchy.
Right.
Because of what peace is. Just not too long ago.
Yeah.
Everyone around us. That's right.
Well, yeah, we're here in a bit. We're going to look at peace and brotherhood too. So it's not just out here in the world that we have issues.
The peace officer for the family unit too.
Sure does.
Where in the Bible does it say the wars and rumors of wars and time on it? Where did that go, you know?
It might be in Matthew 24.
Yeah.
But even
Matthew
down
24:21 says, "For then there will be a great tribulation, such as not yet occurred since the beginning of the world until now, or ever shall." That could be talking about Jerusalem being destroyed or about the end of the world.
Yeah, I wondered, is it, the text really say there will always be wars and rumors of wars? Is that it?
It does somewhere. It
24.
does somewhere. Not sure where.
What's it, what is it?
24, 6 through 13.
Matthew
Matthew.
24? Okay.
Verse 6 says you will be hearing of wars and rumors of wars. See that you are not frightened, for those things must take place, but that is not yet the end. Now,
Does it really say there will always
right,
be?
I think he's talking about, at that point in the chapter, he's talking about the coming judgment on Jerusalem.
Yeah.
So I don't think he's talking about the end times,
Right.
although we are in the end times, we've been in the end times, and we hear you in church.
And then verse 7, there's certainly appropriate for us today too. For nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. In various places there will be famines and earthquakes. Volcanoes, bad volcanoes.
Yeah, that's happened before, and that, if we stay here long enough, that'll happen again. It's in process now.
And the Old Testament, there were famines and earthquakes and things like that to punish people.
Yeah.
And God might be a, process
Locust
of
and frost.
punishing all of us for the different things.
Right. I know you mentioned the other day in one of your talks or sermons that you think sometimes God, I agree with you, there are things going on today that, you know, I think that, God may be doing that to certain folks. So, how do we obtain peace? You would turn to 2 Thessalonians 3:16. Someone would read that, please.
Now may the Lord of peace himself continually grant you peace in every circumstance. The Lord be with you all.
It's the only way we're gonna get it, isn't it? Only way. It's through him. So in Genesis 13, 5 through 12. God, Abraham manifests his commitment to peace. Somebody get that and read that. Genesis 13, 5 through 12. Someone have that?
Lot also, which went with Abram, and Lot, and herds and tents. And the land is not able to bear them, that they might dwell together, for their substance was great, so that they could not dwell together. And there was a strife between the herdsmen of Abram's cattle and the herdsmen of Lot's cattle. And the Canaanite and the Perizzite dwelt then in the land. And Abram said unto Lot, let there be no strife, I pray thee, between me and thee, and between the herdmen and thy herdmen, for we be brethren. If not, is not the whole land before thee separate? Thou said, I pray thee from me, if if that will take the left hand, then I will go to the right. Or if thou depart to the right hand, then I will go to the left. And Lot lifted up his eyes and beheld all the plain of Jordan, and it was well watered everywhere before the Lord destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah, even as the garden of the Lord, like the land of Egypt, as thou comest into Zoar. That all?
13, 2 more.
Oh, okay. And Lot chose him all the plain of Jordan, and Lot journeyed east, and they separated themselves the one from the other. Abram dwelled in the land of Canaan, and Lot dwelled in the cities of the plain, and pitched his tent toward Sodom. But the men of Sodom were wicked and sinners before the Lord exceedingly.
Okay. So they had a problem. So this is even before the range wars in the west here and open grazing and things that have happened again since then. So how did they take care of that? Was that a compromise?
Say, take what you want, I'll go deal with it.
Yeah. What could they have done other than that?
He could have chose the best and just gave him a little. He had that right.
Right.
It's interesting to me that in chapter 12, when God called Abram, what did he tell him to do? He said, go forth from your country, from your relative, and from your father's house. Then, in verse 13, chapter 13, it said, and Lot was with him. If he'd have left Lot at home, he wouldn't have had that girl.
Right.
Lot never should have been there.
That's true.
That could have been the biggest peace move he could have made, to do what God told him to do.
Yeah. Absolutely. We're kind of, I know I'm guilty of that sometimes. I guess we all are, since we're human.
Maybe he tried to compromise with God instead of compromising.
Yeah.
You ever thought about if they had mobile homes back then? Those tents.
They didn't have mobile homes.
Yeah, mobile home, what?
They just weren't on wheels. But yeah. That's, we won't say probably the largest majority of the population in a lot of eras have been nomads. Still a lot of nomads living in the world today.
In that part of the world.
Absolutely. Stay there too long, you might get covered up by a sand dune, right?
Yeah.
Things change a lot over there when the wind starts blowing. So how far are we to go to observe peace? Let's look at Matthew 5, 39 and 40. Matthew 5, 39 and 40.
But I say to you, do not resist an evil person, but whoever smacks you on the right cheek, turn to the other to him also. And if anyone wants to sue you and take your shirt, let him have their coat as well.
Sue. I wonder how many lawyers there were back in the biblical times. And why do you think that's persevered over the years? And it seems that now we have, I'm not picking on attorneys, but now we have more attorneys than we have, especially in the branches of government. I mean, we used to have farmers, and all different sorts of people, especially the representatives, but
Well, it's just the way it is. We go from being smart to being dumb all the time. That's why we don't have farmers.
But in the past, a lot of times, we didn't need another third party to help us litigate a problem we had with another.
Yeah.
I know my uncle that's farmed peanuts and cotton forever up in North Texas on the farm where my dad was born. He always told me he had more agreements with a handshake than he had ever had, having to go get things signed. So why have we gone astray? Why were many, you look on TV, there's a class action suit. You know, if you've ever prayed around it, if you've ever, and then there's different groups of attorneys that have the same deal, call us, I'm a veteran and I'm for the veterans, so, let's water it. The Camp Lejeune thing is like,
I get something from them almost every day in my email.
Yeah.
Like, I've never drank water
the Camp Lejeune. There's a couple of law firms around here in East Texas that made their mark with some big landmark suits that wanted Tyler over there was on the Firestone tires, And then there's even a guy in Kilgore that from the cigarette manufacturers, made a fortune. So, and if you ever watch that Kid Young, I think it is, they'll show their cases and they'll show what the plaintiff got. If you've ever looked down there and see what the attorneys
What
got,
the attorneys got.
Yeah.
like 22 million and all. So it's like, for some reason, there's a problem with that. It's like Beverly said, it's all about money. So let's look at James 4:1-8. And what is the cause and solution for strife? James 4:1-8.
What causes quarrels and what causes fights among you? Is it not this, that your passions are at war within you? You desire and you do not have. You murder. You covet and cannot obtain, so you fight and quarrel. You do not have because you do not ask. You ask and do not receive, because you ask wrongly, to spend on your passion. You adulterous people, do you not know that friendship with the world is enmity with God? Then whoever wishes to be a friend of the world makes himself an enemy of God. Or do you suppose it is to no purpose that the scripture says, he yearns jealousy over the spirit that he has made to dwell in us? But he gives us more grace. Therefore it says, God opposes the proud and gives grace to the humble. Submit yourselves therefore to God. Resist the devil and he will flee from you. Did you say 7 or 8?
8.
Draw near to God and he will draw near to you. Cleanse your hands, you sinners, and purify your hearts, you double-minded.
So what is the cause for strife? Lust. Yeah, I want that. And what does he tell us the solution is?
Submit yourselves to God.
And who's he talking to here? Is he talking about the world, outside the world?
No, it's like,
All this goes back to the great command.
Look, love one another. Is that, yeah. Isn't it funny, I can all go back to that, and if everybody did that, then we would truly have peace in the
You
world.
wouldn't have love, the envy, and all that.
No. But unfortunately, we're human, right? If we feel like we're wrong, then it's, So let's go to 1 Corinthians 6:7, and we'll do 12 and 13. talks about what we need to do, what sacrifices we need to make to keep peace in the church.
First Corinthians 6,
7.
Actually, then, it is already a defeat for you that you have lawsuits with one another. Why not rather be wrong? Why not rather be defrauded?
And then 12 and 13.
Everything is permissible for me, but not everything is beneficial. Everything is permissible for me, but I will not be master of anything. Food for the stomach and the stomach for food, but God will destroy them both. The body is not meant for sexual immorality, but the Lord and the Lord for the body.
Talking about lawsuits back then, right? So obviously outside the church, but what about in the church?
There's a better way to solve something. Anything.
What is always seen though, when there are problems in congregations that seem to sometimes rip them apart, you know, that it's always because of men. Supposedly godly men. I know the congregation I grew up in, like I said, it's very vague for me, but I do remember being a real, very small, 2 or something, and you know, I remember it separated and how Henderson Boulevard began. And I don't remember if it was over orphans and widows or a kitchen or what it was over, but it was one of those things, I believe. That just,
Probably wasn't a kitchen back when you were third grade. Not many churches had them.
no, like I said, I remember our little sink to wash the cups was very small, so I think that was always because it wasn't being construed as a kitchen. Thinking back, I mean, I didn't know at the time, but yeah, it was probably widows and orphans, you know, 'cause I know that split a lot of congregations apart.
and it goes back to the 50s. And
Man.
that pretty much go back to the 50s.
Yeah, that would have been in the late 50s.
Roy Cogdill and Thomas Warren debated. And he basically stopped that whole thing in the 50s.
Yeah,
It was quite a turnout. I mean, there are still families that hate families over that.
if I remember correctly, to me, it seems pretty plain about this in the Bible. I don't know how.
Well, I can understand making it something separate and apart from the church to
Yeah.
accomplish something.
Right.
But then again, how would you accomplish some things without, like, we support the Christian college in Africa.
Right.
How else would we train except for a preacher training school or what have you? And those elders are over the older side of that, and we join in
Right.
harmony with them. So that's a tough situation.
I want to, you know, I've also heard people before, well, you know, I know we're helping her, you know, a widow, she has children that could do, you know, I know you get into that sometimes too. It amazes me how those,
I was at one place that, bless their heart, sometimes people just don't read their Bible thoroughly enough. They wouldn't help a lady who had a tremendous medical bill. And they wouldn't help her because she had a nephew. And, you know, that's what the Bible says, if they have nephew. It didn't matter that she had 3 sons that weren't doing anything for her, but she had a nephew that should have been paying that. That just tickled me. I was like, brethren, let's do some research on what nephew means. It means any relative at all.
right. Yeah, sometimes they
And
really.
if they're not helping, then doesn't it come back to the church to try to help?
Sure. You know, I don't, personally, I don't care if it, you know, if there are children. I mean, I've done things for people that, you see a need and there's a need to be done. So,
I know when we were in Dallas, there was a church that did not believe in helping orphan homes. So they had split years before. And a friend of ours asked the preacher one day how many orphans they had in their congregation, how many adopted children
right.
or foster children or whatever. He said, none. And he said, at the time, we had 15 or 20 foster children and or adopted children in our congregation, and we helped orphan homes too.
Sure.
And so if you decide that you don't want to help an orphan home as such, there's other ways to take care of them. But if you think that that's not the way to do it, you need to be doing it some way. And it's the same way with widows, it's the same way with anything. If you think that the church as a whole shouldn't have a Christian college, if a Christian Bible school needs help, then you need to do it individually.
Right.
If you don't want to do it through the church. And I think that we think that if the church isn't doing it, we don't have to do it.
Well, how does Christ feel about little children? You know,
You want to help little children.
yeah. It's not their fault they're in an orphan's home. Usually.
No.
So let's turn to Matthew 10, 34 through 39. The question is, did Jesus preach peace at any cost? Matthew 10, 34 through 39. Do not think that I came to bring peace on earth. I did not come to bring peace but a sword. For I've come to set a man against his father, a daughter against his mother, and a daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. And a man's enemies will be those of his own household. He who loves father or mother more than me is not worthy of me, and he who loves son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me. And he who does not take his cross and follow after me is not worthy of me. He who finds his life will lose it, and he who loses his life for my sake will find it. So, peace at any cost in your family and whatever.
Not any.
No,
You can't give up Christ.
right. But I'm sure a lot of us know of situations where that's happened.
You know, Paul says that if you have an unbelieving spouse and they depart, then you're not under bondage to stay with them. I don't know that that gives you the right to marry again, but it definitely gives you the right to let them go. And not to maintain peace at any cost of losing your soul or putting yourself in jeopardy of physical harm.
Right.
But it also said if you're married to a non-believer and you think there's some chance of saving that soul,
Yeah, he
that you
says,
should stay with them.
he says that to, Peter says that
Yeah.
to the little lady, to the not so little lady. She's married a non-believer.
Right.
But if they're gonna depart, they're gonna depart.
I think there's a implied lesson there that our Christian family is, in certain respects, closer and more important than our physical family.
Absolutely.
It should be easier to maintain peace with a true brother in Christ than it would be somebody who is not.
Well, you have a solution for that being married to a non-believer thing too, don't you, Joe?
Be careful who you marry.
That's right. But I also know cases where people have married believers and then they had fallen away.
Well, yeah.
And, what do you do about that, you know? As hard as it may be.
We also know, was married unbelievers and.
Sure.
Right to the Lord.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That is not the unpardonable sin that some people say that it is. 'Cause how would you get repentance for it? If it is a sin, would you divorce it?
Right.
Bible says not to divorce.
But I know as far as family, I know Chris V talked a lot about, you know, his family, and he was brought up Catholic, and, you know, he's also talked about the fact that he can't believe that his grandmother, you know, can't make it to heaven. You know, even she died in that respect, and that's kind of hard. But, you know,
Fortunately, we're not the judge.
no, I mean, I have 3 siblings, you know, that grew up in the church just like I did, and, you know, they're not, I don't think they're going to church, but, I think that's even worse when, you know, when you're fortunate enough to be born into a family that are believers, and they, you know, they teach you and take you to church, and you learn, and then you don't continue on. It's hard for me to understand that.
It's hard to understand how a preacher, a denominational preacher, can read the Bible and get up there and tell the things he does. Something's wrong here somewhere.
The devil is strong.
Yeah.
He's strong in those that we think would know better. He's as strong in them as he is in the ones that don't know. So he's strong.
Sometimes maybe strong.
Well, it says that you be, the judgment's gonna be worse on a teacher
Yes.
than it is on,
Or a leader in
yeah,
church.
yeah, right.
Let's go to Titus 3, 9 through 11.
Reading what?
9 through 11 talks about the people who reject peace and are supposed to be treated like brothers.
But shun foolish controversies and genealogies, and strife, and disputes about the law, for they are unprofitable and worthless. Reject a factious man after the first and second warning, knowing that such a man is perverted and sinning, being self-condemned.
Oh boy, that's a touchy subject, isn't it? So what does he mean when he says reject the divisive man after the first and second admonition?
Don't give them any room to spread that vitriol, hatred, and stupidity.
Right.
And they'll be in fellowship.
But then you have those that say, well, how are they ever gonna see the light if you don't continue to associate with them and talk to them?
Arguing with a fool makes you a fool.
When you go back, Jesus said, if the city doesn't accept you, just shake your head and go on.
Right.
We didn't give them the second chances, third chances.
So, but
You go back, this, the verse of man, if you're trying to stand your ground with, God tells us we need to leave those people alone. Sooner or later, the devil's gonna tempt you. It's like going to bad water, drinking. It may not make you sick the first time, the second time, it may make you sick. You hang with people that are bad, it rubs off on you. I guarantee you it will. And you just try as hard as it will. You put this person in the middle, a good person in the middle of a gang, a group of people in diversity, they finally convince him because the devil is tugging at that ear. So you surrender. They're living all right. They're living all right.
right.
Well, it don't say it in the Bible, but what about, it's saying, if you hang around with dogs, you're gonna be pleased.
That's all right.
You line up, yeah.
That's not in the Bible, by the way.
Right.
The principle.
So, yeah,
the
principle there. Some people would say, yeah, it's in there.
You know, it
So-
says after the first and second admonition.
Right.
There comes a time when you have to stop You ever notice that if you just argue and bicker with somebody, the more you do, the more you become hardened toward them?
Yep.
And you just, well, I don't know how to put it, but you've got to stop arguing with somebody so that you can continue to have feelings of love and compassion toward them, so that maybe if they do change, you'll accept them back.
Sometimes you just gotta walk away.
Yeah, that's right.
Like this is, you know, when it's unprofitable and useless. You know, and then there are those that say, well, how do I know that, you know, God's not giving them another chance or whatever. I mean, I think it just comes to a point sometime where you bang your head against the wall. Like I said, it's gonna start affecting you.
I have a brother who was a preacher. He left the church. We would study with him, argue with him, but it became a point where we had to stop for our own self, and because he knew the Bible better than I did,
Right.
probably better than my parents. But it made us all study more. But still, to this day, when he's around, we don't talk about it.
Can't understand how, especially if you know the Bible that well, that you could turn away. I mean,
He thought God was sending people to hell. Not Satan.
but when he tells me there's no hope for me unless I do what he tells me to do, then
It makes sense.
that gets my attention.
The Bible makes sense.
Yeah. I think sometimes too much sense for people.
That's where you were talking about peace. You've got to have peace within yourself, between you and God. That's where it's got to start.
Yeah.
You know, we can come together as a congregation and we can be and do the things that God wants us to do. But if you're sitting there doing those things but don't have peace in your life with God, then there's, you know, that the devil's going to see that and start working there to start spreading it as it goes. But I just feel you've got to have that walk with God and know I can help those people that I need to help. Maybe not physically, maybe not monetarily or whatever. I can always pray for these people. And as long as me and I'm trying to do the best I can through God, with God's help, I feel like He is hearing my prayers and will answer them in some form or fashion. But if I don't have that peace with God, I pray to you and you don't answer my prayer, these things are still going on. I can't, you know, I've got to have the support of my congregation, but I still have to work it out with God between me and Him. And I think sometimes we leave that out. It's not about me. You guys didn't help me through this. And that's where the devil comes in on trying to push it other places. Whereas we have to be the one who says, we have to be the one who helps the God individually as well as a group.
And all he's looking for is one little chink. Let's go to 2 Timothy 2, verse 24. See what Paul tells Timothy about serving the Lord.
And the servant of the Lord must not strive, but be gentle unto all men, apt to teach, patient.
So that they may know the truth. So what's the first part of that? In humility?
First part of 35 says, with gentleness, correcting those who are in opposition.
He tells us not to quarrel. So like you were saying, while ago, Beverly, you know, you get in discussions and you
don't get anywhere. And he knows as well as I do what he's supposed to do. So there's no
There's nothing I can teach you.
Right. Because he knows.
Back up one more verse before that. It says, don't have anything to do with foolish street arguments, because you know those two quarrel. If you get into it, it's like I said, you know, you get into it, you want to stand your ground, you need to stop and back off, pray, and then God knows with what you need to go and speak to these people instead of speaking with Satan hitting to try to make defend you to be right. We need to defend what God's right is right now. And I just know that we got to be careful when we approach people about the gospel. We got to be sure we don't feel like we're better than they are, because we're all sinners. We're still all sinners.
Absolutely.
And we're there to show them the way that God says that they need to be part of this family. And if you're haughty, it turns people off, and it builds a fence that you can't ever overcome.
Yeah, even if you're not haughty about it in today's world, they want to say, well, you say you don't accept this or accept that. You say you're a Christian and you're supposed to love everybody. I mean, that's, drives me crazy. So you don't want to open that proverbial can of worms. Yes.
Listening to all this, and the way I'm thinking is some of these arguments or discussions are spiritual, some are moral, some are statutory legal. To me, some of these arguments don't have any answer. They just don't have an answer, because statutory arguments, 75% of the statute says that for all these situations, 25% are left up to you to make a decision. So, my conclusion is some of these arguments don't have an answer.
Well,
Have an
I
answer,
think they all have an answer through God.
Yeah, but humanity causes us to close our minds to working things out and doing. You know, peace is something that has to be worked at to be maintained. It's not something that just comes once and then it's there from now on. But we have to work at it.
What did Jesus tell the disciples when he sent them out? Think about what he says. If they don't accept it, shake it from the sandals of sand and you move on. Look for somebody who's accepting the willing to listen. You know, time is short. And our time is still short.
Yeah, it is. Okay, let's go to Jeremiah. Jeremiah 6, verse 14, which I think is very apropos when you're talking about this, kind of along the lines of what Bill just said. Jeremiah 6:14 says, they have also healed the hurt of my people slightly, saying, peace, peace, when there is no peace. So you can talk about it all you want. But when it hadn't come to fruition, then it doesn't make any difference. I'm telling you what, he knows what's going on. Thank y'all very much.
That's a good point.
Thank you.